Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to a brand new edition of the Media Row podcast. I'm your host, Justin Miller. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's show. If you have yet to click that subscribe button, make sure you do that. And then follow us all over social media. At Media Row Pod is where you can catch us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. And you are definitely going to want to make sure you are up to date with everything Media Row Pod, specifically on social media, because I have some big news here at the end of today's show that I'll get to as to just why social media is going to be so important here moving forward. So make sure you do all that. And then on top of it, make sure you go and support us by supporting our sponsor in Kelly's Little Nipper. 1701 East Grant Avenue in Des Moines. You're going to find great food, great drinks, but more importantly, better community. 1701 East Grant Avenue in Des Moines. Kelly's Little Nipper, a proud sponsor of the Media Row podcast. So we have a lot to get to. A lot happening right now in the Knapp Center. Good, bad, ugly, disappointing, exciting, all over the place. I'm like Ron Burgundy, glass cage of emotions right now. And we'll start off by recapping the disappointing performance by the Drake men as they fell to Southern Illinois. Then we'll jump over to the game we just got back from. First off, hope everyone was safe with that snow we just got. Driving back from that Drake game was something else. Nothing too crazy, but you get on that interstate and you're like, I hope I'm in between the lines, I guess. So I hope everyone was safe. But we'll recap the Drake Valpo game as the Bulldog women are able to get a win at home in dramatic fashion, stressful fashion. We'll get to that. And then, like I mentioned earlier, I have some news regarding the show at the end today. So you want to make sure you're tuned in and listening all the way to the end of today's show. So let's start with the Drake men. They fall at home 66-61 to Southern Illinois. 7-game losing streak now. A 10-game losing streak. 10 games lost at home to this point in the season, the most since 2016. Just gut punch after gut punch. And I'm trying to stay positive, trying to see the brighter side of things of, all right, year one, look at all the great recruits Hendo has brought over in his time at South Dakota. Look at how Ben McCollum, his first year with Northwest Missouri State, was not good. I think it was a losing record. Wasn't even 500. It was a losing record. And look where he's at now. Things are going to take time. It's frustrating when you've had great success. Drake fans, we've all seen how tough it's been in 2016, since we're talking about that home loss, the 10 home losses, it was really difficult to see the Knapp Center empty and silent. But then you go on that nice little run with DeVries, McCollum, and then you expect that to happen year after year, and it's just not. For mid-major teams, it's very rare. Even if you have a coach, I mean, look at you and I. They haven't been to the NCAA tournament since, I think, 2017. And we all know how good Jacobson is. It's really difficult. And I'm giving a lot of grace to Henderson. I know some fans aren't. Some fans are ready to just move on. I don't think it's fair whatsoever to do that. But while I say I don't think it's fair, to the same point, I understand. It is heartbreaking. It's depressing. It's just gut punch after gut punch. And, we've started the last handful of shows, basically this whole 7-game losing streak. We've started the shows by saying, same old, same old. which there is, the same issues popping up in this loss as well. But this one just hurts especially more to me. And I think it's because this is a team that has been very inconsistent in SIU. This is a team you beat on the road in overtime. And more importantly, this was supposed to be your get back. And you lose your get back on track game at home. Yeah, morale is going to be at an all-time low. And I really think this is probably the lowest I've seen Drake since 2016. Don't look on social media. Don't look at the comments. It's really dark right now for the Drake men's basketball team. And this one hurts bad because the game started off exciting. Back and forth. I mean, Drake was up 13 points at one point. And they had a 5-point lead going into the half. They were shooting the ball tremendously well from beyond the arc, 6 of 14. But then that same old popped up. Just another disaster down the stretch. They led by 13, 31-18. In credit to SIU, they made some tremendous adjustments coming out of the locker room. But it was part SIU making things difficult, and it was part just Drake falling into that trap of not moving, not communicating, not playing as a unit. They shot 10 of 30 in the second half, 1 of 11 from the three-point line, and then only 25 points in the second half. A total of 25 points. The least amount in a half since 2025, when they played on December 29th, 2 days before this new year. And this one's a gut punch because of the losing streak and the home losses. The home losses are the protecting home court is all you have in your first year when you're struggling. That is one thing you want to be able to lean on. And Drake, for some odd reason, looks better on the road than they do at home. And now this is the longest losing streak since 2016. A decade. A freaking decade. And what hurts too is just how it's becoming expected. Drake was going on a run and had the lead, going into the final 4 minutes. Everyone on Media Row, everyone in the stands, I really feel like even the players felt like, well, we've been here before and we've lost. And it's just disheartening that it's becoming expected. And Jalen Quinn down the stretch. Jalen Quinn, fantastic athlete. He's the reason Drake is in these games. But the time awareness, the IQ in the final 3 minutes of every close game goes out the window for Quinn, where instead of playing team basketball, it's 1v5. And you see how defenses prepare for it. SIU, there were 4 guys in the paint in the final, whatever it was, minute, when Jalen Quinn had the ball and Drake was down 3. And he just didn't pass it once, drove down the lane, and gets just mauled, where he can't do anything, gets trapped. And it's just becoming expected. And you can see the frustration on Henderson's face when those plays happen. And players are worn. I mean, there's players hanging their heads with 5 minutes to go in the game. The energy from the bench doesn't feel there down the stretch. And then, most importantly, the fans. The fans are worn. It's disheartening to see, and it really sucks. And the last reason I'll mention for this pity party right now as to why it's just another gut punch is because that loss, this game, like I said on Wednesday's show, this is a game that is more than likely going to be a first round Missouri Valley Conference tournament battle. Right now, it's looking like SIU and Drake will face off on Thursday in 2 weeks. And right now, I don't have much confidence in Drake winning. Even though they were up by 13 at one point and they led going into halftime and they had opportunities to win down the stretch. It's just because of the way the mistakes happen at just the worst times possible for this team. So before we keep going with this game, though, I did want to play for you just Coach Henderson's opening statement following the 5-point loss to SIU and just his thoughts as this team has now lost 7 straight.
You know, obviously had a terrific first half. I thought we had great fight. We really did a good job of protecting the paint. Now they made a couple threes on a couple of our mistakes, but I thought we had great fight and great connectivity. Unfortunately, we weren't able to sustain that, and they were able to get the best of us.
And again, want to thank Coach Henderson for the press conferences. I still have faith in him. Had someone walk up to me and was like, do they cut the cord? And I'm like, no. You're a mid-major in this landscape of college athletics. It would be a terrible move, I think, on Drake's part to fire a coach after one tough season. I know, it's disappointing. It is not a fun season. But you gotta give him a bigger leash than that. Like, I think it would be such a bad look on the program and the department of if you just can a coach. And then what guy wants to come there if they're like, well, if they don't even give me a year as a mid-major in the NIL transfer portal world, no, I'm not going there. And like, you have to remember too, Henderson, with the way, McCollum got hired, or left, I should say, gets hired by Iowa late in the year, where he's already behind schedule once he gets hired by Drake to start recruiting. You have to keep that in mind. So no, it's time to, you can be upset. I'm upset. I'm disappointed. I'm upset that you're not seeing adjustments, that things are becoming predictable, but give him a longer leash. Let's see what happens when he has a full year under his belt to recruit. Now, there are some positives with this game, even though I've been sounding so depressed. And the biggest positive is Isaiah Carr, someone who I think should be in the starting lineup. The way he plays defense, 5 blocks, ties a season high, is the second time he's gotten 5 blocks, which the Drake school record, I believe, is 7. But he's just active and easily the most improved player by far on this Drake team. 6 points, 3 of 4, 6 rebounds, does everything, communicates, has energy on and off the floor. I think that's the biggest thing is we've seen a couple of guys on this team where when they're on the floor, they have great energy. When they're not on the floor, they're just sitting on the bench, is how it feels coming from a fan's perspective. Isaiah Carr's not that. Constantly communicating, constantly pumping up players. When Goodberry has a good finish, he's one of the first guys to come celebrate him in the huddle. Isaiah Carr, and he's a guy who we were hard on earlier in this year, where we're talking about, man, his size kind of gets pushed around. He has answered the challenge that Henderson put forth in front of him, where he wasn't playing a whole lot earlier in the year, and then he has answered it, and I think more than deserves a starting position. Right now, I'd put Jalen Quinn, Shetler, Aaliyah, Larson. I would keep those 4 in your starting lineup, but I'd put Federico on the bench and put in Carr. I think Federico just has been in a slump for the last 2 months, and maybe it'd be good for him to not have that pressure of starting, and then reward Isaiah Carr for what he's been able to do. And then I will say the bench and role players are starting to find their spot. I think Jayshawn Thomas has looked really good coming off the bench. Goodberry has been tremendous, and he's done a good job, whether he is the lone fifth man or when Henderson likes to go with a too big setup. And I've been really impressed with Goodberry, Thomas, and some of the role players coming off of the bench for this Bulldog team. And you're seeing guys like Goodberry really continue to grow, and I think his ceiling is tremendously high for next season. So Drake falls to SIU 66-61. They now go on the road trying to break out of a 7-game losing streak against Valpo, who we've talked a lot about on the show, of just very talented team, sneaky team. They could play themselves up to a 7th seed. They really could. And right now, if I had a pick, I'm picking Valpo. I think a close game. All these games with Drake, they're going to be close. Valpo, though, they've been the most improved team, I think, in the Valley by far. So it's going to be really difficult. You have Valpo next Wednesday, and then Sunday, the season finale at home against UNI. And we've seen what Jacobson's been able to do with that team since they got healthy and started to turn things around. Going to be a really difficult stretch heading into the stressful, exciting week of St. Louis. So Drake men fall at home, 7th straight loss. And then Thursday night, return back to the Knapp Center, getting all excited because the Drake women get to face an 0-26 Valpo team, a team that sits right now 358th of 363 Division I women's college basketball teams. This should be a cakewalk. And just when you thought things couldn't get worse in the Knapp Center, the Drake women found the edge, where they go down at halftime and just don't look like themselves at all. Drake in that first half did not look like the favorite. Valpo did not look like they didn't have a single win. Valpo was shooting the ball well. They were the more aggressive and more energized team. That bench, the staff, communication everywhere, players answering the call, being focused, and then on Drake's sideline, came out sluggish and paid for it. That first half, I should say actually just a few minutes of the game, Valpo took control of more than just the lead. They had the efficiency, the momentum, the energy. Shot 8 of 9, 6 of 7 from 3 by the first media timeout. And it was stressful. Drake didn't get their first lead of the second half until it was 57-56 with just under 8 minutes to go. One of the worst starts we've seen from this Drake team. Multiple turnovers, which the turnovers is kind of one thing we've talked about this team most consistently. But they were odd turnovers. They weren't the typical ones that this offense has had. A lot of unforced turnovers, multiple travels, and just miscommunication. And you had 3 players at halftime for Valpo with double-digit points, and for Drake, not a single one. And the third quarter begins, and you're hoping for that magic that Pullman's been able to have when making adjustments in the locker room, and it didn't look like it was going to happen. Valpo was starting off hot, both sides of the ball, forcing turnovers. Drake missing wide-open layups, taking some really difficult shots in the paint. And then it flipped around. Then all of a sudden that fourth quarter hits. And you have a couple of big threes by Grace Knutson right before the fourth quarter that starts to get the crowd back into it. Alsma hits back-to-back threes with about 4 minutes to go in the game to give Drake the lead. And then those final 4 minutes, Drake basketball. If you want to know what Coach Pullman's style of play is, watch those final 4 minutes and 26 seconds. Drake just absolutely dominates Valpo. 21-3 run in the final 4:26. And on both sides of the ball, and offensively, you had Alsma just starting to get confident. Not second guessing her shots. Not pump faking, just taking it and making them. You had Maggie Taylor getting aggressive. You had Brooklyn Daly being aggressive. Carlson getting 7 points. Ava Hawthorne putting up double digits. Everyone started to get into that role and perform at a great level. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Drake just really made Valpo settle. Valpo in the first half couldn't miss a 3. Second half, they shot 7 of 35. And it was because they had to settle. They were deep in the shot clock, or they would try to go up over 3 players. They started to panic. And that's the difference of these two teams. Drake was down big going into halftime and was down by 15 at one point in the third quarter. But this team didn't panic. Pullman never looked frazzled, never looked defeated. And that shows through this team, where they knew they were the better team and they prevailed. So it wasn't pretty, very ugly, but those final 5 minutes, things just turned around. A switch was flipped for this Drake team and was awesome to watch. So Drake wins. They'll now play UIC coming up next week for Senior Day, as Ava Hawthorne and Abby Alsmo are your 2 seniors for the Bulldogs. Going to be a fun stretch here for the Drake women. Still have Illinois State, I believe, left, but other than that, they have a lot of very winnable games for finishing up the regular season. So Drake wins that one, and now we get set for another fun weekend. But with that, before we finish up today's show, I have an announcement to make. This is the final Monday, Wednesday, Friday of Media Row podcast. You guys know I came from iHeart got let go about a year and a half ago, and I've applied for like 300 jobs. It's been difficult out there. But finally got a full-time gig working for social media working for a company here in Altoona doing social media. Really excited. Going to be the most money I've ever seen in my life, which is awesome. But really excited. But with having a full-time job, it would be hard to go to literally every single Drake game. I would love to be able to. It would just be really difficult. And I still want to be able to do things with my family, with my friends, and have that work-life balance. So I'm not ending Media Row by any means. I love doing this, and I've always wanted a place for Bulldog fans to go. I still want this to be the place. So we're kind of moving it to just a social media thing. We will do shows for big events. So like Sunday against you and I here coming up, we will do a short little show recapping that game. But it won't be the scheduled Monday, Wednesday, Friday program that you've been used to. And again, I want to thank each and every one of you because this year and a half hasn't been easy. But you guys welcoming this show, and originally it was a Monday through Friday show, and then we switched it, and you guys were awesome about everything. I want to thank our sponsors we've had over the year and a half, where they've supported me more than just financially. They were more than just sponsors. They were contributors. And last but definitely not least, thank Drake University for allowing me to come and cover every game. So it's been a weird ride, but it's not over. Like, the best way I've told people is I think this is just a different chapter, but the book is far from being closed. Like, you're still going to see me at Drake games. Not every single one, but I'll still be there either as a fan or reporting. But it's just trying to figure out that balance. You know, I've called a lot of people, a lot of mentors, and they've been wonderful in helping me navigate this because I've never had a real job, to be honest. Like, I worked at Fairway part-time right out of high school when I was a freshman in college. And then I got KXNO. Like, it just fell perfectly where I had a dream job for 5.5 years. So it never felt like a real full-time gig. It was waking up early and doing what I wanted to do. And I'm excited about this new marketing social media position and learning, but it is going to be different because it's a big boy job. I'm becoming an adult. I'm finally adulting, even though I look 15. But I wish I could do this, Monday, Wednesday, Friday still, and make everything balance out. But I have bills to pay, and there's still so many other things in life I still want to do, while still being able to balance everything out. So again, this isn't going anywhere. We're going to make it a more social media, free-flowing type show. And we're still going to be diehard Bulldog fans and crazies and fanatics and have debates and have discussions, have coaches on, have interviews. We're still going to do the things we want to do. But just wanted to let you guys know that so that next week you're like, where the hell is this show? Because next week is my last week before I start the job. So I'll be on vacation. We're actually just going to do one last hurrah big trip. So I'm excited about that. But it's not going anywhere. We're still going to have a lot of fun. But thank you guys again so much for allowing me to be creative with this project, figure things out, and you guys be so supportive. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Can't tell you how much it means that so many people have been supportive. And I would take me another 30 minutes to thank every single person. So one last thank you. This will be our final show for this week. And then we'll be back for the UNI Drake game. But make sure you're following us at Media Row Pod all over social media, because we're not going to be silent on there. So you'll be able to keep up and have discussions on social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff. But that'll do it. A huge thank you to everyone for supporting the show. Thank you to Kelly's Little Nipper, as always. And then we will see you for the Drake UNI game. That'll do it for the Media Row Podcast. I'm Justin Miller. Thank you guys again so much, and have a great weekend.